Will Bottas be on pole for Sunday's Grand Prix? And will we see a Ferrari on the podium in their first home race of the season? Friday practice in Imola was extremely hectic, but it gave us some interesting things to talk about. I'll be talking about the 5 biggest talking points ahead of qualifying. As the Friday came to an end, the timesheets at the top looked fairly familiar. World champions Mercedes were on top after the first day of practice in Imola. But are Mercedes back, or is this just a one-off? Coming into this weekend, we all thought Mercedes will be once again the hunters, as Valtteri Bottas put himself. But looking at Friday's running, it looks like Mercedes have gained and made a step forward. Mercedes brought a few new parts to the track which made the car more predictable and easier to drive, balance-wise. The cooler conditions in Imola might have helped Mercedes too, while 3 weeks ago in Bahrain the hot conditions didn't suit the Mercedes as well as some of their rivals. Though Mercedes are not getting ahead of themselves, as the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly was extremely quick right behind them, and we haven't seen the true pace of Red Bull just yet. But if we take a look at this graph here, Mercedes and especially Lewis Hamilton can be optimistic going into qualifying. This is the ideal lap data, where a driver's best mini sectors are added together to create what would have been their quickest lap of the day. You can see at the bottom that Lewis left a whole 5/10 on the table, and if that would have been his final lap time, he would have ended up in P1 ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Though, as I said, we haven't seen the true pace of the Red Bull just yet. Friday practice in Imola was not plain sailing for them. Sergio Perez had a small crash in FP1 with his old teammate Esteban Ocon, though that was caused due to a radio issue which hampered the whole paddock. Though just minutes into FP2, Max suffered a driveshaft issue which left him without any meaningful running for the day. Verstappen stayed relatively calm, saying, "We just have to focus on ourselves," which shows to me that there is more to come from the Red Bull come qualifying and most importantly, the race. Sergio Perez is starting to feel more at home in his new car, the RB16B. He said he had to change his driving style a bit to get more used to the Red Bull, but said he knows where he can gain performance for the race. So, Red Bull's pace is still a bit of an unknown. We will have to wait for qualifying to see the true picture, but I can sense that there's confidence in that Red Bull team. Looking at the qualifying pace, there are a few big surprises there. AlphaTauri are all the way up in P4. AlphaTauri's HQ is just 50 minutes away from Imola, located in Faenza. So, Imola is kind of their home track in which they have done a lot of running over the winter with some older spec cars. So, until now the pace looks encouraging for AlphaTauri, though they will have to work well overnight to ensure that performance is there in qualifying. And if they do so, might there be a podium in sight? Pierre Gasly qualified in P4 last year, but after just 8 laps he had to retire due to a radiator issue. With Daniel Ricciardo finishing in P3 last year, was that his podium to lose? And can he make up for it this weekend? We shall see. But the other big surprise in this metric is Ferrari. Second best in the qualifying trim. Wow, where did that come from? Ferrari had a very smooth day up until the point Charles Leclerc made contact with the barrier, which would eventually end his session. Though luckily there was just 4 minutes to go and the damage was not that big. In the quali pace they are in P2, though I think Red Bull are still ahead of them, just the lack of running for them prevented that. But if you look at the ideal lap times once again, you can see Charles Leclerc left a whopping 1.279 seconds on the table, and that would have put him all the way up into P3. But there is more, which will make Ferrari feel confident. If you look at the race pace, Ferrari are third quickest, 4/10 per lap behind Mercedes, just 4/10 behind Mercedes, and a whole 3/10 in front of AlphaTauri, with McLaren a further 3/10 behind. Again, this is a lot to do the different conditions the teams face here in Imola compared to Bahrain, but still, Ferrari can be optimistic going into qualifying and the race. But as you can see here, even though they had little running yesterday, Red Bull are second in the race pace with 0.01 seconds behind Mercedes, which will give them a lot of confidence going into the race. And finally, what can McLaren do? They were certainly the third quickest team in Bahrain, but here in Imola, they haven't quite showed some great pace yet. Both drivers say they don't have the confidence in the car yet that they had in Bahrain 3 weeks ago. But looking at the ideal lap times again, Lando would have been all the way up in P5 with Daniel Ricciardo in P12. McLaren will be hoping for a strong night with hopefully some good results come qualifying and the race. And with Alpine, Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo being all within 4/10 of them in the quali trim, everything needs to be on point for them to make it into Q3 and avoid getting out in Q1. So, a lot to talk about ahead of qualifying and the race, but I personally can't wait for it. This will be it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and bring on qualifying. Goodbye.